Hey, what's up, everybody? Happy Tuesday. It is currently 36 degrees, going to be a high of around 39. Uh, Partly to mostly cloudy, 10 to 15% chance of precipitation today. 7:26 is the sunrise, and 4:17 is the sunset. So we didn't lose anything on the front end, and we gained a minute on the back end. um, and this this could be the turn, right? This could be the turn where we our days start coming back to us, and that's kind of how we come out of a season of sin. There's a conviction, and it's not usually this giant switch is flicked and boom, you have full summertime. It's usually a transition and a turning, and a lot of times in that turn, when we turn away from the enemy, the weather pattern or the storms come, right? More storms come, and it gets harder. And a lot of times that's kind of like how this coming out of winter season is. Um, the days will start getting longer, but we get those storms into late March and early April, um, and that's because we're turning back to the Lord, and it, like I said, it usually starts with that first inclination or a little grieve in your spirit, and you realize the distance you have from God, and you turn back to Him, right? That's that 1 minute on the back end. You don't really move anywhere on the front end, but you turn away and you get that minute back on the evening on the sunset side, right? And that's kind of like how that works. Um, and so we have been in a study of Judges. We're in Judges chapter 9, and I've been talking about maybe skipping a couple of these and kind of moving along, but I think what I'll do is just summarize some of this stuff and pull out some principles from these um, narrative tellings, uh, not necessarily skip over them completely. So Gideon dies, and he's got 70 sons, right? 70 sons of Jeroboam plus one Abimelech, who is the son of his concubine, so different mother, right? And um, so there's a lot going on here, right? When you have mixed families, and many times there's things that come up between the siblings, and um, sometimes they say hurtful things to each other. Um, you know, I I I see that, and in my children, we have a couple that we took in, and for whatever reason, there's sometimes sibling rivalry, even within the um, biological siblings. There's sibling rivalry, but it's a little different. It's hard to put my finger on it, um, and I think part of the this narrative, and Jeff did too, because there's some similarities here, as in chapter 11, and I think I'll put that off until we get there and then look back on this and talk about the similarities. So Abimelech, he's the son of Jeroboam and his concubine, and so he takes off and goes back to the origin of where his mother's from, and that's Shechem, and he starts talking to um, his family members, his mother's family, and he puts in their ear, tells them to say into the ears of the leaders of Shechem, which is better for you, all 70 sons of Jeroboam rule over you, or that one rule over you. Remember that I am your bone and your flesh. So he starts putting this grumblings in the ear of the people, and it almost kind of sounds good, like we can just have one leader and know who to look to. Whereas though here, by this statement, it would seem that the 70 sons of Jeroboam are ruling over the land. Okay, and so he's devising a plot to usurp them and put himself in the leadership position. All right, and so it finally works. Um, they're like, he's our brother. Let's put him in the leadership position, and they give him some silver, and he goes to the um, and he goes to the men of the town, and he hires them, and he hires worthless and reckless fellows who followed him. That's you know we tend to attract people that are linked, right? Linked in heart, linked in value system, and who do we hang with, or who hangs with us? Who wants to follow us, right? And so this is a kind of a warning of his heart, right? It's telling us about his heart. Um, and so then he goes to his father's house at Ophrah and kills his brothers, the sons of Jerubbaal, 70 men on one stone. But Jotham, the youngest son of Jerubbaal, was left, for he hid himself. All right? And so then the leaders of Shechem come together. They anoint him king, or it says they made him king. That's verse 6. And so Jotham finds out, and he tells a story, right? Or not a hyperbole, a metaphor. He gives a metaphorical story about the olive tree, and this is good actually. Let's look at this. So he says, um, let's look at verse 8. So um, he says, "Listen to me, that God may listen to you." That's verse 7. And the trees once went out to anoint a king over them, and they said to the olive tree, "Reign over us." And look what the olive tree says. But the olive tree said to them, "Shall I leave my abundance, by which gods and men are honored, and go hold sway over the trees?" Like, I'm doing better on my own, okay? And in how God made me. All right? I'm an olive tree, and I'm meant to have an abundance. And should I leave that um, where I'm honored in what I do and hold sway over other trees? And the tree said to the fig tree, "You come and reign over us." But the fig tree said, "Shall I leave my sweetness and my good fruit and go hold sway over the trees?" Why? So why would we want to leave if we're doing what God has called us to do and gifted us to do it, and some and we're asked to do something um, that makes us leave what we're doing for the Lord in our proper position, and lead over trees that aren't even Christians, right? Or aren't even um, in the orchard. Uh, why would we leave our sweetness and good fruit and go hold sway over these other trees? And then the tree said to the vine, "You come and rule over us." But the vine said to them, "Shall I leave my wine that cheers God and men and go hold sway over other trees?" Right? So then then the trees go to the bramble. "You come and reign over us." And the bramble said to the trees, "If in good faith you are anointing me king over you, then come and take refuge in my shade. But if not, let fire come out of the bramble and devour the cedars of Lebanon." Now, so sometimes, and we see this. Um, I've seen it. I've seen it in churches. I've seen it on teams. I've seen it on in the workplace. People get placed in positions just to fill the position because there's nobody else, and we're like, well, who else is gonna do it, right? So nobody else, none of these trees that are doing what they are supposed to be doing for God and reaping the benefits of that don't want to leave the sweetness of what they're called to do, to rule over trees that don't even belong in their orchard. Okay, they finally go to the bramble. So what I'm getting at is sometimes a leader is made or placed because they don't have any other good ones. Because there's nobody good to lead, so they just stick somebody there. And there's so many things wrong with that, right? There's so many things wrong with that. We've seen it in politics here in America, okay? And so, you know, then what happens, right? Then what happens? Then the tree said to the bramble, "You come reign over us, and be king over us." Um, and he says, "If you come in good faith, and you are anointed me king, take refuge in my shade. But if not, if you're just coming to come to me, and you're not coming in good faith, fire come out of the bramble and devour the cedars of Lebanon." Many times, that leader that just gets stuck there, and who you don't really want in the first place, and you don't really necessarily agree with the fruit of the bramble, right? The fire's going to come out of it, and you're going to be devoured by that leader, and or their value system and the things that they do. It's going to devour you, okay? And that's what's going to happen here. That's what's going to happen, to Abimelech, and how it works. And I would say, and I'm running out of time. I'm not going to go 13. Maybe I'm not going to go 13 minutes. Um, but if we just follow people and stick people to be in leadership roles when they don't even belong in that position, it's just going to be our downfall, y'all. It's just going to be our downfall. And I would say, so watch who you follow, right? But also watch, who are you leading, right? Who are you leading?